Ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays to everybody here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, special holiday edition. Jingle, 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 jingle. And for another week of the podcast, I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Dolls.
And so our topic for this edition, if you might have guessed it, is holiday movies and how much we love them.
And we apologize because this is actually the last episode of the year. We meant to release our year-end review after this episode, but it accidentally got published before we meant to.
They don't know that.
So if you listen to that episode before this one and we talk about how, hey, we'll see you in 2019, well, this is now actually for real our last episode of 2018.
So I looked at the stats and there was one download of that episode.
What, really?
So I think that was you.
That was no, I think there's more than that.
Really?
Yeah. Daltz is in the festive spirit, not the Festivus spirit, but the festive spirit.
This is the high budget sound effects that we have gathered here today for this particular episode.
He went and grabbed a stocking from the pellet stove that has a jingle bell attached to it that my dog went crazy and tried to attack the other day because apparently she's never seen a jingle bell in her life, even though she's 1,000,000 years old.
So when we do the video portion of this podcast, you'll be able to see the fact that I went and grabbed the tree first and brought it over and shook it, but it didn't make any appreciable sound. So I had to go back and get the stocking with the dealio on it. What do you call these things?
Jingle bells?
That's a jingle bell? Is that
Sure.
actually what they call it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
Speaking of 2019, we will be video broadcasting the podcast.
You're going on the record about that?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the record. I'm going to hold our feet to the fire on this. We're going to get a webcam and we're going to set it up over in the corner of our dining room, and you can see how I'm in my robe right now and Daltz is in like a t-shirt and sweatpants, and it's a really high budget affair. So if you want to, you can listen to us on your podcast app, or you can watch us on YouTube sitting here drinking our festive beverages.
Right. The eggnog galore
Yeah.
that we have usually. I think we're going to have to change the wardrobe budget for the show, though, if we are going to start videotaping it, or whatever they call it these days. Video recording it.
I'm going to have to start wearing makeup, so I know you're going to
No,
like that.
don't do that.
I mean,
Be
it's
a good
HD.
example for the youth of today.
If it's HD, then you can't be seeing like my zits and dark
Makeup
circles.
industry is nasty in so many ways.
You know what else is nasty? Christmas. Not just playing.
Segue. That's Coco's way of saying, get off my back about the makeup.
No, that's just me saying I think we've already spent 5 minutes not talking about Christmas
Not
movies.
talking about
so
Christmas, right.
Maybe we need to start talking about holiday movies.
Holiday movies. Let's talk about them.
Yes.
So, how many Thanksgiving movies are there? Or we're just talking about Christmas movies?
I think we're just talking about Christmas movies. Okay.
So, there's not like a Flag Day movie or something like that.
I think there is, because isn't there like Mike Nichols or whoever did like Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve, and I think there might be like an Arbor Day movie out now. Or
I'm going to go out on a limb and say every superhero movie is a Flag Day movie, because at the end of the movie they all stand there looking at the wind with the flag blowing in the distance behind them.
You're right.
So every Avengers movie is a Flag Day movie.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they're patriots.
So we need like a President's Day movie. Well, we watched Lincoln, so that might be a President's Day movie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So it's Christmas movies. It's not holiday movies. Okay.
Right.
So just for my point of clarification.
Okay.
I didn't want to go on the wrong track. I did all this research on Bar Mitzvah movies and Boxing Day movies.
That would be awesome. So the reason we decided to do this podcast is because we watched the new Netflix release, The Christmas Chronicles, with Kurt Russell, who we have done a podcast on before, wondering why he's not a bigger star than he is.
We are big fans of the Kurt Russell.
Especially Escape from New York.
Especially Escape from St. Louis.
Yeah. So scroll back in your podcast feed and find that episode if you haven't listened to it for background on Kurt Russell.
And there's a very good chance you have not listened to it.
Because we see our download numbers. So what did you think of the Christmas Chronicles, Dalt?
I thought it was not very good.
Aww.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. The Christmas movie is very trite and usually formulaic in its approach. Santa or a Santa-like figure comes under some sort of crisis and is unable to enjoy Christmas or celebrate Christmas or bring the presents to the kids. Mm-hmm. Therefore, some sort of proxy for Santa is either involved or somebody is volunteered to get involved and help out Santa or the Santa proxy to save the day. And at the end of the day, Christmas is saved, everybody's happy, the end. That's a lot of Christmas movies right there that I just summarized. Mm-hmm. This movie was not any different from that. Kurt Russell plays, I guess, a hipper Santa Claus, you would say.
With a Pharaoh wig.
With a Pharaoh wig and actually a Pharaoh beard, too, by the looks of it. It was
pretty fluffy.
And it was actually kind of homeless-y.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, it looked like it had, like, food items in it.
Oh, goodness. Well, Santa does eat a lot of cookies on Christmas Eve, so...
Which is why he's my hero. But I was not too crazy about the movie. I went into it with an open mind and open heart because I know you wanted to see it and because I have children and I was screening it for them.
We did try to get them to watch it and they were uninterested.
They were too interested in their phones and their devices to look up and even acknowledge that we were in the room. Christmas, is it? Christmas, what's that?
Where's my presents?
Let me look on Instagram and see what that is. So
not that you're bitter.
Not that I'm bitter. Not that I'm any different from any parent these days on the phone situation. So, yes, I was not a big fan of it. I like Kurt Russell. I thought he was good in it. I thought he did the best he could with the material he was presented. And we didn't actually explain the plot. I didn't exactly explain the plot.
Well, you just basically explained the plot. Santa, these two kids stow away on Santa's sleigh. And then they cause the sleigh to crash, and the whole movie is kind of convoluted. They have to get the elves to rebuild the sleigh, and they have to find the reindeer, and they end up in a chop shop in Chicago, and Santa's in jail. And I will say probably the best thing about that movie was Kurt Russell's performance. He was just enjoying the hell out of himself.
Yeah, he was good. He's always good.
Yeah, he's always good. I was vaguely disappointed because Santa's in jail with like hookers and drug addicts and Steve Van Zandt, who somehow made
randomly.
An appearance. Yeah, and so they do like a kind of jailhouse rock scene where Santa makes like drum kits materialize.
Which was completely random.
Yeah, and I was very disappointed if they were going to go the jailhouse rock route that they didn't sing Blue Christmas by Elvis. Yeah. I was waiting for that, and it didn't happen. But.
So it was like one of those movies that you try to figure out if it needs to be like a little bit farcical or if it's just being cute or what it is. And so when they went and they did the musical scene in the jail
randomly in the middle,
and then they go to a different scene, I was thinking they would come back and Santa would be like out, but no, he was still singing. He was still going. They were still playing. So I guess we got the musicians on the contract and they're expensive. We might as well use them for the full scene.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's Steve Van Zandt. Come on.
It was Steve Van Zandt who looks like he's not in game shape, let's say.
He was wearing a Travolta wig for sure.
He was wearing a wig. And
lots of wigs in this movie.
I think that he was auditioning for the role of Santa and failed to get there.
And what I don't understand is, Kimberly Williams Paisley played the mother of the two kids who stowed away on Santa's sleigh. Her husband is Brad Paisley, country star.
Oh, wow.
Why don't you get Brad Paisley to be one of the musicians in the jailhouse rock scene?
Oh.
I didn't bring that up during our critique of it while we were watching, but I mean that would be perfect.
Idea.
Yeah,
I had no idea there was that connection.
Yeah, so
and we did see the Goldie Hawn Kurt Russell connection throughout that movie.
That's true. Goldie, please lay off the fillers. You're a beautiful woman. I know you're getting up there in Hollywood years, but you don't need them. You're beautiful. Stop it.
I was disappointed to see how she looks now. Yeah. So the highlight of that movie for me was picking out scenes in Toronto that I knew were streets and things like that I'd been on, because the whole movie was filmed in Toronto, and then of course it stands in for Chicago and Boston and other points around the world. So that was the big moment for me, really, and that shows you the level of commitment that I had to the plot and to the characters.
I guess the jailhouse rock scene was probably the best one for me. The chop shop scene was kind of weird, and
that was random.
The elves didn't look like any elf depiction I think I've ever seen. I wasn't expecting them to be like the troll dolls from the 80s, but that's kind of what they looked like. Like, they were very strange. So.
And there was a bit of savagery to that one guy with the chainsaw, the one elf.
Yeah.
I thought elves were like friendly, happy people, always building toys.
I mean, that's what Will Ferrell was like in Elf.
Right.
So.
This is the kind of, and all the elves that were around him were all very friendly and happy. And
except for Bob Newhart, who was like bitter and jaded. But
he was playing Bob Newhart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got one shtick. So, yeah, I guess maybe my favorite part might have been right when they first crash landed in Chicago. They went into Nick's place.
Chicago in air quotes.
Yeah. Toronto/Chicago. They went into a bar trying to raise money to get like a cab to go somewhere. I don't even remember where. And
so you were deep into the plot too.
Yeah. And the bar was called Nick's Place. And I thought that was a cute callback to It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey goes to whatever the heck the name of his town is, like if he hadn't have been born.
Pleasantville or?
Yeah, something like that.
Hooterville?
No, well, it's Potterville in the alternate reality, but I can't. Bedford Falls, that's it.
Look at you.
And the name of the bar in Bedford Falls is Martinis, but in Potterville, in the non-George Bailey born universe, it's Nick's. So I thought that was like a handy little, like, we're paying homage to one of the most famous Christmas movies around.
Maybe that was just an admission of guilt that they've stolen from all the other movies, because the plot was just another Santa Claus in trouble or Christmas is in trouble movie.
Yeah. So clearly the best thing about that movie was Kurt Russell just hamming it up, and yeah. The
best line that he had was when he said fake news about...
That's right. Santa doesn't eat cookies or something like that.
Some stereotype about Santa. I guess we have to now be, careful of our stereotypes about Santa too. Like,
that's right.
You got to be sensitive to these sorts of things these days. You got to be aware of other people's challenges and opportunities.
Well, speaking of challenges, I felt really bad for Kimberly Williams Paisley, because she's a nurse and she had to work overnight on Christmas Eve. So that's why the kids were alone. And she came back on Christmas morning, and there's all these presents under the tree that Santa left there, and none of the presents was for her. They were just all for the kids, and she's just sitting there watching the kids open the presents, and then the boy opens a present that doesn't say, like, from Mom or from Santa or whatever, and she's like, oh, who's that from? And I'm like, really, Mom? Like, you're not going to be freaked out? Like, who left a present for you under the tree that I don't know about? Like, it was...
Well, I think that we're supposed to suspend a little bit of disbelief, because it is a movie about Santa.
Yeah,
about a man who flies with reindeers.
And is fat-ish, but goes down
chimneys in a magical poof. I like the way they did that, actually. The special effect around that was good.
Yeah,
there was some good CGI there. You talked about the elves. They were heavy duty on the CGI, but they were a little bit on the creepy side. You know what
else I thought was strange is, like, Santa has like an old school library card catalog,
right,
full of like every letter he's ever gotten or whatever. I'm like, is Santa really still going to do that, or is he going to be computerized these days?
Well, especially considering the sleigh had some sort of magical turbocharger time warp thingy.
Yeah, like the Harry Potter
right.
Yeah, thing where you can and it also, the bag was like a magical portal to the North Pole, right. So that's why it's a never-ending bag of presents instead of him actually physically having to carry every single present in the sleigh. Like,
well, I was expecting, so maybe there's a paradox there. Maybe Santa is a complicated man, and we're supposed to think that he has a longing for some of the older ways that we have lost.
Yeah.
That we're not as connected as we used to be. So maybe there's a lot of symbolism there in the cards. And also, he spoke a language that I was not familiar with. Was it Finnish or Norwegian? Or
yeah, I think
Scandinavian?
I didn't think the elves were not English speakers, which is probably me as like an Anglo-centric like worldview going on. But
so I think that this was also a comment on our times, on how we should be more inclusive and understanding.
Immigrants taking our jobs.
Right.
There we go. That's MAGA. Immigrants are taking our jobs. Right there.
Okay, people, you thought this was just a Christmas movie. This movie was a comment on our times.
Right. Oh, and I would also like to say I did enjoy the performance of the two Chicago cops who arrested Santa.
You did?
I thought they did a good job.
So that's another factor that during the streets street scenes of Chicago where there's many car chases and reindeer chases and sleigh chases, there was not a soul on the street other than the people who were acting.
Right.
So there weren't any cars driving by, there were no people walking by, and yet it was supposed to be Chicago.
Yeah, I think Lakeshore Drive late at night is still probably going to have a lot of cars on it.
Like maybe like 11:30 or 12:30 or something like that. Like
but
it was not too late.
This is more disbelief suspension happening.
Well, there's disbelief suspension happening, and then there's also just like, come on.
Like downtown Chicago is going to be this deserted.
On Christmas Eve.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
So that's a movie that is a good Christmas movie, I think.
Without actually being a Christmas movie.
And that's why I think it's a good Christmas movie, is because the plot is sort of like the sliding doors aspect. Is like, what happens if I didn't live, or what happens if something else happened and I took a left turn instead of a right turn?
Right.
What happens if I missed that bus? What happens if I made that train? That kind of thing. So that's why I like that movie. It's cheesy, and every time you hear this, an angel gets her wings, whatever. But I think that the plot there was good. So it was a good Christmas movie. Are there any other movies out there that you've seen that are good movies that happen to take place during Christmas, or vice versa?
Oh, goodness. Well, now you've...
Well, I think the elephant in the room.
Well, I was thinking actual, like, Elf or A Christmas Story, but my favorite Christmas movie of all time is Die Hard.
I should say the elf in the room.
The elf in the room, there we go. The 500-pound sack of presents in the room is... Yeah, I freaking love Die Hard. If you say it's not a Christmas movie, you can bite me, because that is a Christmas movie. It takes place on Christmas Eve. It takes place at a Christmas party at Nakatomi Plaza. It's awesome.
So why is that a Christmas movie?
Because it takes place on Christmas Eve.
But it has nothing to do with Christmas. It just happens to be like... What happens if it had taken place on Flag Day? And they had flags and they were having a Flag Day party.
Well, then it would be an awesome Flag Day movie.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, how can you not like it?
I think it's a great movie. I'm just questioning whether it's a Christmas movie.
Well, then you talk, because I know I read somewhere where one of the creators said that it actually is a Christmas movie, so you talk. Were
there subsequent movies that were set during Christmas? Like, is it set on Christmas every year for the sequels?
I think Die Hard 2 is on Christmas, and then I think after that they gave up the ghost.
After that, they said, we can't make the same movie over and over again.
Even though every time they do. Yeah.
Even though that's what a sequel is.
And that spawned a whole lot of movies, too, because Speed, like Die Hard on a bus. Like
Right.
Air Force One, Die Hard on a plane.
On a plane,
like, yeah. So you talk while I look up.
Well, I think my favorite Christmas movie, at least in recent memory, has got to be Elf. Because Will Ferrell's performance is outstanding. He is an elf. And my daughters have seen it a couple of times. They think it's pretty funny. And it's everything I can do sometimes to keep them from eating spaghetti with maple syrup on top of it.
Ew.
And like those cheesy Lucky Charms and things like that. And he puts on in the one scene. So there are very few movies that are like that, when you have an interesting character and he just takes it off the hook and goes in extreme directions and it actually works. Mm-hmm. But I think Will Ferrell was Elf in that movie. Yeah, and that's sort of him. That's how I think of him, as that character is like Elf, like this goofy, wide-eyed, innocent kind of comedian who is not Ricky Bobby or is not Ron Burgundy, but he's more like Elf. Like, I don't think he's Ron Burgundy. I think he's going around going, Scotch, Scotch, Scotch.
Now that's what you do.
Or being in a glass cage of emotion or anything like that. I don't think that's Will Ferrell. I think Elf is truer to who Will Ferrell is.
Are we going to watch Elf this year with the kids and your mom?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, so here is a Christmas movie or not checklist. Die Hard takes place entirely during the Christmas holiday. The setting is entirely at a Christmas party. It plays 3 Christmas songs. Yeah, there we go. Whereas White Christmas, only the final reel takes place during the Christmas holiday. The final reel only is the setting for the Christmas party, and it only plays 2 Christmas songs. So there you go, Christmas movie.
But Christmas is in the title, the movie title.
Well, You're not going to say Die Christmas or Christmas Hard. I mean, that's
Christmas Hard.
Christmas Hard. That's like a porn movie. That's not. So yeah.
So the site that you're citing,
WashingtonPost.com.
No way.
No way.
Die Hard versus White Christmas?
White Christmas.
This is the hard-hitting journalism that we're trying to shut down in today's society.
And apparently the book that Die Hard was based on is much more Christmassy than the movie. One of the producers said.
Wait a minute. Die Hard is based on a book?
Oh, yeah. Like, I remember reading that in the book, John McClane is actually saving his daughter, not his wife, and like there's some other stuff like that. But yeah, according to the producer, the book, which was published in 1979, is much more Christmassy than the movie.
Wow.
Because it uses the holiday to underscore the hero's fall from grace.
Ooh. Talk about symbolism.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. Yeah. I still don't really think it's a Christmas movie, but I don't want to bite you, so...
Don't you, though?
Not as far as the listeners are concerned. But, so other Christmas movies, have you seen a lot of Christmas movies in your life, or...
Well, that's an opening.
If I had a sound effect for a door, it would be like...
like at the beginning of the Thriller song. Like
that's exactly what I had in mind.
Although that's Halloween and not Christmas. So
yeah, Halloween movies. That's not really a holiday though. So I guess that's not really a.
No, don't you even go there. You know I love Halloween.
Yeah, so. But you don't get it off school or work or anything like that.
I know,
so
that's
not a
true.
holiday.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
So I haven't seen a whole lot of Christmas movies in my life, which probably explains why Die Hard is my favorite Christmas movie. Because we are going to delve into Coco's childhood now.
Oh.
So
I wish I had different sound effects for that.
Or considering we're talking about my mom, it could be like the psycho, like yeah. So
hopefully she's not listening.
She probably still has a flip phone. So yeah. So my mom was actually literally in a cult. When I was a child. Literally in a cult. It is qualified by the government as a cult. And even though we accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, they didn't celebrate Christmas or Easter. So it was this weird...
No Easter movies either.
Yeah, so no Easter movies either. So it was this weird kind of... But it did celebrate stuff like Passover. So it was this weird kind of Christianity, Judaism hybrid.
Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still going. She's still in it. She left it for a long time when they told her that she was like going to hell for divorcing my dad. Yeah, that's why she left it, actually.
Sounds very open-minded.
Yeah. So that's why when I was a kid, I was not allowed to watch Christmas movies because those are pagan. So I saw It's a Wonderful Life because that's not really a Christmas movie. And I was allowed to watch Die Hard because that's not a Christmas movie, even though I was like 11 when that came out. So I think that was kind of inappropriate.
Yeah.
But I never saw like Rudolph or anything.
Or Frosty.
Or any of that stuff until probably about 5 years ago. And by that point, like I was cynical and jaded and I was like, this is awful. So you don't have
kids, so you don't,
right, and I don't
accidentally see one.
Right. Like I was for some reason allowed to watch like a Charlie Brown Christmas. And like
now that's a good
Christmas
that's
a really good one. Yeah. And I got to see like It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So I think Charlie Brown generally was acceptable for my mom for some reason, but other holiday themed cartoons were not. So yeah, so I watch Frosty now and I'm like, yeah, this is not good because I don't have those fond childhood memories and nostalgia. So that's why
you don't associate your childhood with that show.
Right. So that's why our the lights on our Christmas tree aren't working right now, and Daltz's head is exploding about it. And I'm like, just take the tree down. It's fine. We don't need a tree. Come on, because I don't care about Christmas because I never had it when I was a kid.
Well, that's why I was stunned and surprised when I got angry and I said I was going to light the Christmas tree on fire and throw it off the deck. And then you didn't object.
And I was like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. It'll land in the snow and the fire will go out. Just like the oven mitt that we had at Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
which is another story.
That's
entirely.
A whole different podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you subscribe to our Facebook page, then maybe you'll get a sense of that. So what if the bell rings? Does an angel get her wings, or is it last call, or what does it really mean?
I don't know. I never gave too much thought to it, actually. What do you think?
Well, we got to come up with something.
Well, I could go get some more wine, but it's only like 11:30, so I mean it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. So that's why my favorite Christmas movies are Die Hard and Elf, and I do like A Christmas Story. I did finally just see it a few years ago,
which
for the
I've
first
never
time
seen.
Too. I think the girls would like it. Like, I think we should watch it with your girls and your mom.
Maybe I'll do that. It's always intimidated me because as a young lad, young strapping lad in
Ontario,
and where it's cold in the winter, I always was worried about the whole tongue on the post thing because that was something that they told us in school. Don't put your tongue on anything metal and cold. And I know there were some people who were dared to do it and might have done it. I never did it, and I didn't even consider it. I was always worried about, sticking onto a pole by the swings in my public school, and then having my mom have to come with boiling water and remove me in the middle of the night.
Well, speaking of not having a childish sense of wonder about Christmas things, should we talk about Baby It's Cold Outside?
Baby, It's Cold Outside. Let's talk about that.
So there's a radio station in Cleveland that has stopped playing Baby It's Cold Outside because the lyrics are indicative of a man not taking no for an answer. And now there's a big brouhaha over that. You see it freaking all over Facebook and everything. People are like, no, this is a classic. Stop being so sensitive. So this is another song. We weren't allowed to listen to Christmas music either.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what, did you have a Christmas tree?
No, we didn't have any of that. We didn't decorate. I didn't get to do the Christmas
So what did you do on Christmas
school.
Day?
Nothing.
You just woke up and had a coffee and some smokes and...
Yeah, pretty much.
Went to the 7-Eleven and...
Yeah. We actually, my dad's parents, I'm an only grandchild on my dad's side of the family, and they were like, when are we supposed to give this kid presents if you're not going to let us celebrate Christmas? So we had our big holiday celebration on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, so we put Christmas presents under the turkey and, yeah. But
put them in the turkey?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I got a diamond ring! I'm choking.
On my gizzards. So, yeah, so I never listened to Christmas music as a kid, really, either. And so a few years ago, for the first time, I heard Baby It's Cold Outside. And, yeah, I'm going to go on record as saying I heard the lyrics and I was like, this is kind of rapey. Yeah. I'm really kind of not into
I never
this song.
even imagined it that way until you pointed that out to me. So that just shows that I was caught up in the festive aura that is Christmas and wasn't really paying attention. But after you pointed that out to me, I was like, yeah, that's not good. That's not a good song.
And I know a lot of people are saying, no, she really does want to say yes, but because it was like the 40s and the mores were different and she was worried about her reputation being ruined. I'm like, you know what? Still F that song. Because either he's a rapist piece of crap or it's celebrating a time in which a woman wasn't able to say yes because she was worried about all sorts of bad things happening to her. So F this song either way. Like whichever interpretation you believe in, whether he's a rapist creep or she is saying yes by saying no because she's allowing herself to be talked into it because she wants to say yes, but she can't. Whichever interpretation it is, it still sucks.
I'm not going to be all F this about the song like you are, but I will say that the defense of, well, that's the way it was in those days, it doesn't wash anymore because...
Slavery used to be a thing, too.
Right. You read my mind. You read my mind. Like, in the 40s, you can imagine what it was like for black people and people of color.
Right.
Like, oh, that's just the way it was in those days. Like, what happens if it was like a horrible song about how people were treated in those days, black people around Christmas, and it was, like, we don't do that anymore. We just, like, the society evolves.
Right.
So just because it was the way we did it in those days, that's not it was, women didn't have a vote at a certain stage, and black people weren't citizens at a certain stage. We don't, it's like, well, it's just the way it was. Yeah, well, we've evolved. We're better than that now. Right. And we're going to be better, hopefully, in 40 years than we are today. I'm
kind of surprised that there's like the big uproar over this song.
Well,
like
at
least
too.
on my Facebook page, like maybe it's not a thing for everybody. Like maybe some people really don't care one way or the other, and I really don't care either. I mean, ban the song or don't ban the song, it doesn't matter to me. But I was very surprised that like all of my Facebook friends are putting up the memes like, hey kids, I'm pretty sure mommy consensually agreed to kiss Santa Claus. As a matter of fact, like I'm really kind of surprised that people are so with the pitchforks.
It's reflective of our times.
Yeah.
It's definitely a reflection of our times. It's a reflection of the society that we're in. And I've also been a little bit stunned about the fact that, so Baby It's Cold Outside, all of a sudden we're picking out this one Christmas song, and yet how many misogynistic rap songs are there out there? Mm-hmm. Not saying all rap is misogynistic, but there's a tendency to go there and to where my point is, there's lots of other places where we could focus our attention rather than on a song that's going to be gone in 3 weeks anyway.
Right, exactly. Right, it gets played for, depending on how in the Christmas spirit you are, maybe 6 weeks out of the year tops, and then you don't listen to it again until Thanksgiving next year.
Right, exactly. So. I know the CBC banned it, and then they stepped back off it, which is surprising for Canada, because usually Canada is very sensitive to everybody, and then it ends up watering a lot of things down. Mm-hmm. But in this case, they stepped back off it and said, you know what, we took the feedback, and we're going to put it back on the air because we think it's fine, or we think, you know, reflection of the time, whatever reason they used. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that, like, there's so many Christmas songs out there. Just pick another one.
And Baby It's Cold Outside is actually even not really a Christmas song.
It just has to do with cold weather.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Which loops back to, is Die Hard really a Christmas movie, or it just takes place over Christmas? See?
No, it's a Christmas movie.
See how I'm putting two and two together here? I'm working the channels.
I don't care what Bruce Willis says. It's a Christmas movie.
So Bruce Willis says it's not a Christmas movie.
Well, apparently there's some speculation about whether he was joking or not.
Oh. Yeah. He's also very grouchy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Generally?
Yeah. So they don't know if maybe there was some sarcasm going on there.
That's too bad, because I really liked him in Moonlighting. I thought he was great in Moonlighting.
Is there sarcasm going on here too? Yeah.
No, that was actually I like that show. David something or other.
Dave and Maddie, those were the characters.
Yeah,
right?
Dave and Maddie were the characters. Yeah, and he was good.
That came on when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
So, anything else we want to talk about on our special Christmas edition of the podcast? And it's Christmas; it's not holidays, because we didn't do any Thanksgiving movies, and we didn't do any Passover movies.
Any Hanukkah movies.
We didn't do any Boxing Day movies.
Yeah. Any Kwanzaa movies.
Any New Year's Eve movies.
Diwali.
Any March break movies.
Well, that's
actually, there are March break movies.
Yeah. So, no, I think so. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just like ringing the bells here.
I really hope this isn't screwing up our sound on the podcast.
No, I'm looking at the sound engineer is giving me the thumbs up through the glass.
Oh, okay.
So we're good. And when we start recording this visually, videotaping, when it's on video and you can see it on YouTube, you'll see the set that we have. You'll see the sound engineer booth. You'll see the high-tech mics that we have in front of each of us. It's really going to be a glimpse behind the curtain.
We do actually have a high-tech mic, so I'll give you that.
One high-tech mic.
Can you stop doing that? That's kind of annoying me.
All right, sorry. So for another edition of the podcast...
For our final edition, officially, of 2018...
Maybe, unless we do another one later today.
Which I don't think we have anything to talk about.
Oh, okay. That kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can find something.
We'll talk about our feelings and put that on the podcast.
Oh, I bet that's going to get a lot of downloads.
It's going to get more than we have. It's worth a shot.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas for another edition of the podcast. I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Daltz.